Welcome to She Manifests Wealth Formula podcast. I'm Liene and a master of subconscious mind, entrepreneur, and a creator of best-rated course on manifestation, wealth formula. With experience coaching 15,000 plus people, I have crafted a 15-minute formula to solve any problem, aiming to transform health, wealth, and relationships. In this podcast, I strive to showcase real-life transformation stories that bridge the gap from where you are to where you want to be. Let's manifest our lives together because nothing is impossible when we are the conscious creators of our life. Thank you for tuning in today, and let's begin. Welcome to She Manifests podcast, and today I have a very, very special guest, Kristina, and she's so special because she's coming from my neighbor country, Estonia. I'm from Latvia, and she's sharing a very important message about self-love. And Kristina is co-founder of Mindvalley, entrepreneur, writer, speaker, mother, philanthropist, and a woman who is sharing her journey of spiritual growth. So welcome, Kristina. I'm very happy you are here. Tell me, maybe from your side, what did I miss? What's your mission on this planet?
Thank you so much for this kind introduction. And I guess, when you reach a certain age, you can tell your story for hours. So, of course, there are a lot of things that I do in addition to what you mentioned, but I think you mentioned the most important parts. I'm co-founder of Mindvalley and an author of a book on self-love.
And the book is amazing. It's really, really important book. And I will tell you why I think it's so amazing, because nowadays we are so focused on the success, on the money, on all materialistic things, on everything that's going to be seen from the outside world. And you are speaking about something very important. What is happening inside of us, right? Kristina, how did you come to this point to write this beautiful book?
So, I've been in personal growth and transformation for 20 years and mostly as an entrepreneur. So my role is actually to help other authors to get their message across. And that has been my main task in my business. And of course, as part of that, very often I heard the comment that you have to write a book because it's part of the business model. So go and write a book. The thing with me is that I'm obstinate and I'm pathologically honest with myself, at least. So I couldn't force myself to write a book unless I had actually a message. So it's, literally the book came when it was ready, when I just knew I had something to say. So just as a side note, I haven't written a second book yet because I feel that the message is still ripening. So I guess the book is the result of me doing my work for 20 years and experiencing personal growth, not just as a teacher or a speaker or a student, but as a person who brings the two sides together. So I just felt that I had something which I wanted to share and it wouldn't stay inside of me.
Very good. So I work with a lot of entrepreneurs, and I know this is something that people are striving for because of this imposter syndrome. They are high achievers, and most of them have this pattern to beat up themselves, to criticize themselves, to go into the perfectionism. And I think the real main reason is to receive love and acknowledgement from other people. What do you think about it?
There are a lot of there's a lot of research and a lot of articles and books even about imposter syndrome. It's something that we as a society know, of course, and struggle with. And general consensus is that surprisingly, it's usually the more accomplished people or the people with high responsibilities who feel the imposter syndrome. And there are a lot of explanations why it happens. In my research, what I have come up with is that there are two sides to being flawsome. my book is called Becoming Flawesome, and it's about recognizing your imperfections, but still thriving with your imperfections, not despite them. So the two sides of becoming flawsome are your outlook about yourself and about the world at large, and it's this dance between your relationship with yourself and your relationship with the world. So if we're talking about self-criticism and being hard on yourself and imposter syndrome, which is part of that, or one expression of being hard on yourself, then very often it comes out of best intentions. And there are different types of people who do that. Some of them are perfectionists. The perfectionists have a slightly different mechanism why they're so hard on themselves. It's more because of their high bar for themselves in the world. Now, there are also such people as underdogs and stoics, and a lot of people who have those traits, they would recognize themselves. They're also very hard on themselves, but for a little bit different reason. Their reasoning is that criticism is good for you. If you criticize yourself, if you criticize anyone, if you give constructive feedback, then this is the basis for you to grow and evolve. So this being hard on yourself and criticizing yourself comes out of best intentions. People like that usually are hard on themselves because they want to grow. It's their idea of how you grow. I tell myself very honestly how I suck at everything, and that maybe will make me better. Now, the problem with that is that such self-criticism actually erodes your confidence. And then there is very clear research that shows that your success depends on two factors in equal parts. One of them is your professionalism, how good you are, your competence. And this is for what we criticize ourselves. But the other one is your confidence. So that's, in a way, it's a vicious cycle because your competency is important for your success. But people who are either perfectionists or stoics or underdogs who still are on the way to prove themselves, they very often take that idea of, what it means to be competent, and they turn it against themselves. They start eating themselves up for not being, as competent as they think they have to be for success. And now that erodes their confidence. And you see, it's a vicious cycle because out of the best intentions, you're actually hurting your own chances at success.
And obviously it's coming from the point, like me and you, from Soviet Union countries, right? We are coming and we know how parents have been raising us. And I don't want to say anything bad. I love my parents, I honor them, but I see that the mindset back then was, if I will be criticizing you as my kid, then you will be more motivated to do better, to succeed better. In the schools, it was the same, right? So I think, especially from our side of the world, and probably in America and everywhere else as well, well, right? Do you agree with me? It's coming from the parents at the end of the day, the way we've been raised, not parents, schools, and all the society.
It's definitely the mental model which we as a society subscribed to the most. And yes, you're right. In Soviet Union, it was on steroids. I know it from, of course, first-hand experience because I was 14 when Soviet Union collapsed. So I have actually experienced how it works. So when I was 4 years old, for example, I was picked up for Olympic reserves. And Olympic reserves in Soviet Union was literally a mill, a factory that produced Olympians. And I saw it from inside at the age of 4. It's probably one of my earliest memories in life because it's also very traumatic. I was picked up for gymnastics, and what they do is that they pick the children who have what it takes, and then they just break them right there on the spot. My first training was so intense that I cried. I begged my mom not to take me back there. Thank God my mom listened to me. The next year at 5, they picked me up again, this time for figure skating. Now, and the thing is that in the West, at least when it comes to sports, very often we also sign up to the same model. And usually, like in my case, I would hear criticism that I wasn't made for that. I wasn't an Olympian because, yes, maybe my body was made for that, but my mind wasn't because I was broken. But I was 4 years old. My psychological or emotional state was not ready for this kind of thing. Now, in Estonia, recently we had this huge scandal erupt. One of our top trainers in sports and she humiliated children. She broke them, because that's a model with which we grow up. You have to break someone for them to become strong, for them to become the winner. We love this model. We understand this model.
Like a robot. I said like a robots, right? They are growing
Yes.
robots without any emotions.
So yeah, it's expected. If you are to succeed, you are expected to put everything on the altar of your success. We see this model, we admire this model. We see it on TV, we see it in the news, we see it about all our athletes. Because yes, of course, it's something to admire, but the thing that we don't pay attention to is the waste material. And I was the waste material of Olympic reserves in Soviet Union. I was broken very early, and I never stepped on this path. But I consider myself lucky, because the only price I paid is that I have had a hard relationship with sports for the rest of my life, but I do enough to keep myself healthy. I was lucky because I was broken so early on. Imagine all the people who go on this path, who go, who are broken, who still keep going, and then they never reach that pedestal that they were hoping for. And their dreams are broken, let's say, when they're teenagers, when they're 20 years old, when they never reach it. There's so much waste material. We only see and admire people who reach the top, but this is a fraction. This is not just a minority, it's a fraction of all the population, and we completely disregard all the broken lives on the path to that crazy idea of how success is supposed to be achieved. Now, this is, of course, not the only way.
I see. And also, I'm always thinking, what is the balance there? Because I believe there is also some discipline has to come in, and some structure has to come in order for us to really achieve. And I don't think about the achievement where you achieve some materialistic things, but where you grow, right? And if we are becoming too ignorant and undisciplined, then sometimes we just are, going with the flow. I don't want to say, but we want the flow, but we want also the discipline into our lives. What do you think about it? Is there the balance?
I
So
think,
it's black or white?
I wouldn't actually try to strike the balance with this paradigm, because this paradigm is flawed at the core. The idea of this paradigm is that you absolutely necessarily need to break yourself to achieve success, whatever this breakage is. And very often it's this idea of sacrifices. So you have to sacrifice your social life, your enjoyment, your health, your emotional health. If you live in this paradigm and you're trying to find balance, you're not going to do it. You're just not going to find it, because balance in this paradigm does not exist. And yes, this paradigm works because we've seen, and this is the only success that we notice, and the only success that we talk about. We talk about that in movies, in books, on the news, because this is something which we understand. We understand that yes, if I suffer all my life, then maybe I deserve success. Now, partially, it also comes from the idea that you have to earn your success. You can't have success easily, because if you have it easily, something is fishy. That means that either your success is not real, you didn't earn it, you're an imposter, and you're going to be found out, and you're going to lose it as easily as you found it. Now, what I'm trying to say is that why don't we just abandon that damned paradigm? Yes, some people do reach success like that, but majority of us suffer. Majority of us suffer, and there are other ways to excel, to be brilliant, to become the best in the world. We just don't talk about that other ways that much, because they don't come with this dramatic story. They're not so interesting. But there is such a thing that you are doing your thing. You're doing it, you're loving it, you're enjoying it, you're doing it so well that it's not an effort for you. I remember when I was married to Vishen, I would often complain, Vishen, stop working, you're working on weekend. And once he just cut me off. He said, I'm not working, I'm pursuing my passion. It's trite. But if you do what you love, you will not work for one day. If you do what you love, it's not sacrifice, it's a choice. If you do what you love, what you're good at, it's not breaking yourself. It's actually, yes, then you will put discipline. then you will do the things that need to be done. And sometimes you will choose to work rather than to go out party. But that will not come through breaking you, through overcoming you, through forcing you, through relying on your willpower. It will come from the internal motivation, the only thing that lasts.
You see, I love what you're talking, because I'm somebody I can work really hard. And I was working really hard in my first business. We had a restaurant chain with 10 restaurants, production, and I almost came to the point where I lost my marriage, right? My health was falling apart, and I left that business, and then I started the business that I'm doing right now, which is my passion, right? It's my mission. And sometimes I think there is a difference between women and men. When man is pushing, I think that's okay. They are hunters, right? They can go and achieve. But recently, I put myself in the position where I was working so hard, Kristina, and I realized, again, I lost the connection with myself. I disconnected from my husband, from my kids, because I was in this circle running like a rabbit. And then now I'm like, oh my gosh, I never want to be there anymore, because I'm very good at working, right? I know what it takes to work 24/7, think, achieve. But women shouldn't be doing this. We should go with the flow, we are feeling things, right? And what is really important also, if you push, it means you don't believe you can achieve.
Mm.
It's never going to come easily and effortlessly.
I recently interviewed an author of a wonderful new book, Luke, and he talked about this idea of hyper success, the success that we all talk about, whether it's Mark Zuckerberg or Elon Musk or, the big names. And he cited research. I have to go through him because I haven't seen research personally. He cited research about, your abilities and your level of success. And the surprising thing is that, you know how this curve goes, and there is the majority of us, and then there are 10% of 5% of the super talented, super smart, and the 5% of the opposite. Now, the funny thing is that the super achievers are not part of that last 5 percentile of super competent. They're usually from the majority, which is really interesting. And the way this author of Fluke, his name is Brian Klaas, explains, it's really fascinating, because the point is that this hyper success also depends on chance, which is beyond our control. And yes, while we imagine that, if you work yourself to death, you can reach the level of Mark Zuckerberg. Maybe he's not the best example, but whoever your idol of super success is, the truth is that just work is not taking you there. There's no way, no matter how smart you are, no matter how much you work, it's just not happening. There is chance and chaos at play as well for this to happen. Now, if we just let go of that 5% percentile in terms of success and think about your own happiness, your own, fulfillment, then success becomes a little bit more attainable. Now, coming back to your question, men versus women, I think that there is a much deeper problem here. It's not that men and women are very different. We are actually, as creatures, we are fairly similar. Of course, women and men have somewhat different focus, somewhat different priorities throughout life. Women tend to be a little more focused on relationships, and I talk about relationships in general, whether it's within the team, at work, or that expression could be that they actually value the family life. But I'm 46 now, and I've lived enough, and I've seen a lot of successful people. What I've noticed, that with time, we even out. Women become paying a little more attention to work and their achievement with age, and men start paying a little more attention to their relationships. And I think this is the result of wisdom. Just a simple example: I've spent enough time with Richard Branson, for example, on his island in Necker, and he told me, in the early days when I was young, when I was doing stupid things, nowadays when you come to visit him, he spends a lot of time with his family. His family is there. His house is built there for his children and their children. So last time when we were there, his daughter was there, their friends, grandchildren. It was like kindergarten. So The same about my ex-husband, Vishen. I've noticed that with age, he started valuing the time with the children and spending time with family much more. On the contrary, I started spending much more time thinking of what is my legacy here on this earth. So I do not know where it comes from, but I think deep down inside, when we achieve that wisdom, we actually realize that both matter. It's not the question of either or. It's not the question of whether you just flow through life and enjoy it or whether you just focus on your success. It's actually trying to find that balance and dancing with that. And why I say the problem is deeper is because this is the society that dictates the roles to women and to men. Society expects you to be a proper woman first. And then if you have time and capacity, maybe you could be a super achieving woman, an entrepreneur woman, a leader woman. But according to social psychology, apparently our role as a woman is primary and we are judged first based on our role as a woman. Yet the society has certain expectations to a woman, and a woman has to be caring, nice, care about her family, be married, have children. So that's the deeper problem. And of course, society has expectations to men. The man has to be a rock, has to be a super achiever, has to be rich, has to take care of the family. So these expectations are planted into us from early age, and we live them out, and we interact with each other based on those expectations. Now, the problem is deeper because this is hard, both on men and on women, and unfair, and it feeds the paradigm that we live in. And part of that paradigm is that success requires sacrifices. And now I know I go into rants about these topics, but now to just bring the last misquote by Harvecker, and he talks about money in this way, money versus love, but I think it's a brilliant quote. Why do we have to choose either or? Either your family, your flow, your enjoyment versus, leaving a legacy, achieving something. How about both are important? What is more important, your leg or your arm? How about both are?
Absolutely. And I agree also with the quote, you can have it all. You don't need to choose one or another. But I'm more about, women in the business. Now I'm in some mastermind with a very successful women, and I can see they're suppressing men a lot. Not consciously, and I don't want to go into the topic men or women because I never see, I really am not a feminist, I'm not a one side or another side, but I really know what I have seen from my side because, I've been making these mistakes where I became so into my masculine, into my strength, into my achievement that I suppressed my husband's abilities. Not that he is a very strong man, right? But it's just somehow energetically, when we are going into the masculinity, then there's no polarity. And we are kind of unconsciously suppressing men. And I really saw these women talking about their examples that, they literally killed their abilities because they were competing with their husbands, with their partners. And it's just because they felt that they are not valuable unless they're succeeding in business, unless they are making a lot of money. So I kind of feel and see, and maybe I'm not right? But whether we can raise up our man or we can bring him down.
I would, to that I would say that this is what we see on the surface, and it's how it looks. Now, is it truly so? I will give a somewhat bizarre analogy. When you see a family, let's say in a shop with a young child, and the child starts throwing a tantrum and demanding attention, then we usually have all sorts of critical ideas. Either the child is unruly, or the parents are idiots, not taking care of, educating the child. Now, the true problem is not the fact that the child is unruly and the parents are idiots. The true problem is that the child's emotional capacity is obviously huge. They do have emotions, even if we devalue their emotions, but their vocabulary is little. And very often they express themselves in exaggerated terms just because they can't drive the point in any other way. Now, the problem isn't the child or that parents are stupid. The problem is the lack of communication. People have needs, both the child and the parents, and these needs are not being met. I mean, the parties are not communicating and their needs are not being met. So what you're describing, I feel that's a similar case. There are needs that both sides have, a man and a woman. And the question is not in masculinity or femininity. The question is, do we hear each other's needs? Do we hear our own needs? And how do we go about that? I kind of get where you're driving at, because, Vishnu was a very powerful man. I was a very powerful woman. And you might have all sorts of theories why we are not married together anymore. But the truth is that relationships depend on people actually being present with each other, being committed to each other, being there for each other. And when we get distracted, stressed, overworked, too tired, very often we go for shortcuts, and shortcuts lead to tantrums. So when you suppress a man, very often it's an expression of your desperation. And when the man is allowing to be suppressed, then it's an expression of his desperation. So I would argue that the question is not in your behavior so much, but in, have you heard each other's needs? Have you heard your own needs? Have you met? Have you talked? Have you tried to figure it out? I'm really sorry, and maybe it's not a popular opinion, but I don't like absolute solutions. You're a woman and these are your roles and this is how you are supposed to be, and you're the man and this is how you're supposed to be. I think we have 8 billion, more than 8 billion people on the planet. We are all different. Yes, there's gender, there are objective things, like I could bear children and my ex-husband wouldn't be ever able to bear children. But beyond that biological difference, I think there is so much intricacy between different people that it's too simplistic. It's too simplistic to say, you have to be like this just because you're a woman, and you have to be like this just because you're a man.
No, I'm just a bit near. It's not about, I'm not driving anywhere. This is actual like question for myself right now, because, I see, especially in my past 3 months, I've seen how my like determination and not ability to go into my feminine and rest and go with the flow and do, it's affected everything around me. But I think at the end of the day, as you said, it's really about the communication and being able to understand first with ourselves, right? What do we need? What do we want? And then bring it out and communicate, right? Not to keep the sin to another person that somebody is doing something or not doing, right?
And do you even trust what you hear about yourself? That's another thing, that we are taught not to trust our inner voice. And sometimes your inner voice says, I need to drop everything and become a man. And maybe that's what you have to trust. And sometimes your inner voice says, I'm done with that, and who do I prove anything to? And that's what we also have to trust. The thing is that we don't trust ourselves because there's another paradigm in which we like to live, our contemporary society. And the idea is that people are stupid and lazy. People believe that if you don't force yourself, you're going to do nothing. If you don't force yourself, you're not going to move. You're going to just lie in bed and sleep. And we are stupid because, if I don't criticize myself, I'm not going to grow. This is all coming from the simple idea that we don't trust ourselves. We think that unless there's discipline and some kind of routine in place, I'm not going to move anywhere. But my theory is that we are not lazy and stupid. We're just overworked, exhausted, tired, and have unlearned to trust ourselves. That's our problem. If I do not know about you, but I love holidays, but very often, sometimes at work, I crave to go back to Maldives and do nothing. And, there's nice hotels where everything is done for you. But the truth is that if I get to that place, I will sleep the first day. I will sleep probably the second day. The third day, I will sit in a hammock and read the books that I haven't been able to read. And then by day 5, I will be itching to do some work, because we are not lazy and stupid. We're just extremely self-critical, not trusting. We don't trust ourselves, and extremely overworked and exhausted. If we just were allowed to hear our inner voice and just trust for once that what I feel matters and it has information that I should hear.
Absolutely. I agree with you. The noise in our head, all these thoughts, negative thoughts about ourselves, is what's making us tired, right? Not other way around. So what are some tools that you would suggest to people who are criticizing themselves, not loving themselves, judging themselves, not trusting themselves? What are the tools that you would suggest that they can do on a daily basis?
So I'll try to give a two-sided answer to that. The one-sided answer is not going to give you any tools. I will refer to the idea in psychology, it's psychotherapy. If you have a problem and that problem took you 5 years to, to become to the point of critical that you go and seek therapy, then usually it takes about half that time to untangle that bundle. So let's say if you have been in a toxic, unhealthy relationship for 5 years, expect about 2 years of work and healing before you're fine. Now, let's say if you are 40 and you don't love yourself, then you can expect that learning to love yourself is going to take some patience and some time, because it took you 40 years to get to the point where you don't hear yourself, you don't trust yourself, you don't love yourself, you don't have faith in yourself, and you think that if you love yourself, you will be sitting in bed doing nothing and saying, I'm good just as I am. Of course, people usually don't want to imagine that now they have to spend the rest of their life working on untangling their relationship with themselves. Now, the second part of this answer is that, yes, there are so many things you can do, and usually you would need a little bit of guidance in terms of, how to untangle that puzzle of very complicated relationship with yourself. But there are two practices which I think are incredibly helpful. One of them is the practice of retrospection. So it's actually, imagine it as taking a mirror and looking at yourself. So I have this theory that your relationship with the world is a reflection of your relationship with yourself. And very often, if you have problems of the world, all these problems go with their roots into your relationship with yourself. So when I start getting snappy, angry, a hedgehog, and unpleasant person, generally, usually it's a red flag. Sit down, spend some time with yourself, figure out what's going on. The world is not to blame. It's your shit. I'm sorry that you're like fanning back onto the world. So the practice of retrospection is actually always looking into the mirror and always asking yourself, so what is going on with me? You snapped at someone behaved as a complete ass. You ask yourself, so what is it in me that's getting so triggered? What's going on? Because if I told you that this green color of hair doesn't work on you, you would probably laugh at me. But if I commented something which you sign up to, then it would hurt you and actually haunt you for a long time. So usually, if something haunting us, anybody else's misbehavior, slight, rudeness towards us, it's usually because it triggered something within us. And this is a good way to start untangling this relationship. Ask yourself, what's going on? How do I feel about it? Do I like how I feel about it? Do I not like how I feel about it? And the second practice is journaling, which helps to put a little bit of frame into this first practice of retrospection. So my suggestion would be get yourself a notebook. And I know some people probably already journal, but do it with an intention to sort out your relationship with yourself. So spend about 5 to 10 minutes every evening before you go to bed, just doing a retrospection about your day. How did your day go? What did you feel? What did you think? How did you think about yourself? What was your self-talk? Just think about your day in the past. How did you feel? How did you like it? How did you not like it? What did you like? What did you not like? And without judgment, just reflect. Just reflect on your own experience through the life. And a very important thing, don't judge. Don't even try to change anything. Just pay attention. The bizarre thing about transformation, personal growth, is that you usually don't need any discipline for that. All you need is awareness, noticing, because the moment you start noticing, you immediately start feeling certain things, and some changes will happen without you even forcing yourself, because you suddenly notice things. So journal for 10 minutes with an angle of with an angle of your interaction with the world. Do it through your own feelings, your own thoughts, your own self-talk.
I usually do it. Firstly, I'm always checking on sleep, because if I haven't been sleeping enough, then it's like, you better stay away from me, because there is one grumpy lady all the time walking around. The second thing that I'm always doing is exercising. I'm running, because I know, especially when there is a stress at work or somewhere else, then I know this is the way I release all the stress. And I even see how my mind is organizing in shelves all the information, and I'm like, oh, this is another perspective, and I need to keep to this one. And I agree with you also. Journaling is a beautiful thing where I'm like writing what is really bothering me right now. And I'm just dumping all this because otherwise I will dump on somebody else, my husband or kids or someone around. And the third or fourth thing is meditation. This is where like it's just like, okay, now I'm at home. This is my peace, this is my calmness, and this is again like you just start to see things from the different angles, right?
So you actually caught me right now between the two activities, the sleeping and the exercise. The truth is, I came from US 2 days ago, and I'm still suffering from jet lag. So I woke up a little too early last night, and I'm a tiny bit sleep deprived, and I'm about to go to the boxing session now. There's one more important thing about self-love. There is self-care, which is maintenance, and which is the sleep and the exercise and the food and meditation and occasionally, I don't know, a bath or a massage. And then there is self-love, which is a relationship, which is not ritualistic by nature. So journaling maybe is a ritual which you could kind of attribute to self-love, because in journaling you can pay attention to your feelings and thoughts about yourself. The good things about exercise and let's say meditation is that it also creates some space, and you tend to start reflecting on how you feel, which is taking you there. I personally don't do journaling regularly or religiously, but I know that there's a lot of research and psychotherapists suggested, because it's really good way to work through your emotions. I guess the most important thing what I'm trying to drive at is that pay attention to how you treat yourself, not in terms of rituals and self-care, because self-care, I couldn't sleep because of jet lag, but this is just a phase. And when you have insomnia, a much worse thing is to be upset about not having enough sleep. It's okay to go with your exhaustion, and that's the difference between self-care and self-love, because self-care says that you have to have your sleep no matter what. Cancel half of your day and go and sleep. But self-love says that you can tolerate yourself if you're grumpy and sleepy and not in your full energy. You can forgive yourself for that. And that's a huge difference. If you can feel the difference, that's going to help you heal your relationship.
Yeah, and Kristina, you've been somebody who is now leaving a legacy. Like you said, you are at the point where you're really sharing something extremely important now with the world that everybody needs to hear, whether you are a high achiever, you are an entrepreneur, you are a simple employee. It's just really super important. But what was the point, like the lowest point of your life, when you realized that you are not loving yourself?
It's I didn't have like the classical dip and pack. It's like with taking a shower. I took a shower this morning. I'll go to my boxing session, and when I come back, I'll probably need another shower. So self-love is the same. It's ups and downs. My life keeps going. I have new projects, and occasionally your projects don't take off. Occasionally you experience failure. Occasionally you suck. And these are all these moments when you have to go back and start from scratch and try to learn yourself again. So my wake up probably was at the peak of my perfectionism, because like you said, I lived with that idea of what it is to be the perfect me and what are the achievements that I have to achieve. And it's this legacy from Soviet Union maybe. And at some point I just felt that while I'm doing everything right, I just am not happy. And being not happy is half the problem. I actually hated myself for not being happy. How do you dare not to be happy, folks? The stupid first world problem. Like, you have everything. How dare you not to be happy? Get yourself together, work on your happiness, put some effort into that. And that was probably my wake up call when I realized that this is not what makes you happy. And I started learning it. But the truth is that happened now maybe 10 years ago. But the truth is that it happens over and over again. I launched a book last year, and yes, I reached some success, and in some aspects, I think I could have done so much better. And I didn't like certain of my actions or my decisions. And these were all the moments when I had to go back to basics and just remind myself that it's okay, let's keep going. There's still so much to do, and so much time to change things. So it's an ongoing thing.
Absolutely. And you had this chapter that I really love, turn the setbacks into your strength, right? And the way I see that, like we have our life journey, we come into this world with our mission, our purpose, and everything that we experience is something like a school where we collect the knowledge so that we can pass it to the world. And most probably you are on the same understanding or path, believing that we don't come in this world just for no reason to eat, drink, I don't know, make money, go on vacation, watch television and do all these things. We come with some purpose, and we cannot share with the world unless we have lived there, unless we have been there, unless we have felt them. Otherwise, how you can understand all those people who are not loving themselves, and probably your audience is like 90% of population, Kristina. So you chose a very, very valuable topic. So where do you see this? How to turn the setbacks into your strength in your life?
I actually, I learned this concept from a friend who is gone now. He was born with a very dramatic genetic condition, and had a hard life, well, health-wise. But it was his mother who asked him, Sean, are you going to make it your curse or your blessing? Now, I guess it's a similar philosophical answer to both of your sides of your question. On one side, do we really come with a purpose? I do not know, but it's up to us to make a purpose. Maybe we don't. Maybe biology-wise, we're just an ape on this planet Earth who just happened to take on a little bit more onto our shoulders, and a little bit more audacity. But maybe we don't have a purpose, but it doesn't mean that you can't create one for yourself and live according to how you choose to live. So I know, philosophy is an interesting subject, and I just recently I have a book club, Mindvalley Book Club, which makes me go through every new book in personal growth that's being published. And last week there was this book which is super interesting, but it's literally about, like, do we have the moral right to birth children? Because there are people who truly believe that we are a curse to the planet. So I do not know. Maybe we don't have a purpose, but it's up to you to choose. Are you going to make it your curse or your blessing? And no matter what happens to you, are you going to make it your curse or your blessing? I think it's such a wonderful idea, because we cannot control what's happening to us in our life. We might have an illusion, but it is not true. We can't control what's happening to our life, but we can control how we react to what's happening in our life. And here I'll quote Gandalf from The Lord of the Rings. When Frodo was saying, why me? Why now? He said, we don't always choose the times when we're living, but we always get to choose what we do with the times that we're given. So it's the same answer to all sides of your question. I have no idea. Maybe it is chaos and maybe there's no purpose, but I get to choose. Do I want to give purpose to what I have in my life, to what happens to me? And I as you were asking this question, I was thinking maybe I'm just too attached to all the hurts that I've been through. And on one side, of course, I'd like to hurt less. But on the other side, I've already experienced that. Do I want to throw it away? Whatever happened to me, it brought me to this point. And very often when people ask me, what would I change? If I'm honest with myself, my answer is usually no, I wouldn't change anything. Maybe I would have acted, knowing now what I know, maybe I would have acted differently occasionally in the past, but I wouldn't change anything because everything that has happened to me has brought me to this point.
So we are co-creators of our life, right? Everything what has happened to us in some certain way, we been attracted with the thoughts or behavior, or just because we have to go through this lesson.
It's in relationships, we definitely usually are a huge part of of what's happening, especially in close relationships. In the grand context, you were born in the Soviet Union, I was born in the Soviet Union. That wasn't our choice, but it was given to us, and I don't mind. Some people, actually, I find a lot of strength in that experience, but for some people, that was something that damaged them for the rest of their lives. And when Soviet Union collapsed, they never managed to, to regain their footing. So we are very often given, we're given our gender, we're given our, I don't know, mental capacity, maybe, the way we look. With the parents, we never got to choose that, but we all get to choose what we do with what we're given, and that's important to remember.
And also, as you said, some people didn't go through this path, right, from the Soviet Union or another events that I believe that it's always a choice. We come to some certain point and we have a choice whether we will suffer or we will use it as a power, as you said. And talking about relationships, and you are open to speak about the concept of conscious uncoupling. Yeah. And I think, Kristina, I'm amazed of this concept. And because I was going through this 2.5 years ago, I was at the point where I almost got separated with my husband just because it just didn't go anymore the way I wanted and he wanted. And I was really even turning back the point because Kristina, you mentioned because then I was looking back, I'm like, how is this even possible? And could you explain people? And I want you to explain and talk about it because it's again a paradigm where we believe that it always has to be with a fighting, with not speaking, sharing kids, and just to show as an example that it can be different. Because I think it's a very, very beautiful thing that you've been doing.
Yeah, the concept of conscious uncoupling doesn't belong to me. It's Catherine Woodward Thomas. So if you are on the brink of breaking up from your relationship and you need that professional guidance, then Catherine Woodward Thomas is the person to learn from. She has a book on that, and she has decades of experience in psychotherapy for the couples. So that's where we got the idea from. Now, I experienced it just firsthand, and there are two sides to a breakup. I first have to say that, breakup or divorce or relationships, it's not my topic. I only share my own experience. I do not research it. So my answer will be much more amateurish in that aspect. So I believe that there are two sides to any kind of breakup. One side is the reason why people are breaking up. And usually that's that thing that we were talking about, the lack of communication. We had our needs, which we didn't meet. And there were certain circumstances why we actually didn't go down the path of trying to mend the relationship. So we decided to break it up. Now, people have different reasons why they break up, and very often what happens is that they take those reasons and carry them forward into their future relationship, and that very often determines how this relationship evolves. Now, just because you're not in a relationship with someone, in the classical term, that you're not a couple, you're not boyfriend and girlfriend or girlfriend and girlfriend, you're not married, doesn't mean that you don't have a relationship with that person. You still keep having a relationship with that person, even if you don't talk to that person, if you don't see them, because the relationship is not just the rituals, it's not just you spending time. It's that emotional, emotional life or bubble that surrounds your feelings or thoughts about that person. That person, if that person has been in your life, that person will stay in your life in some shape or form. Very often, it happens in the shape of a trauma, or patterns that we carry into the future relationships. And the problem is that very often that reason why we break up becomes the defining factor of your future relationship with that person, of that trauma that you carry, of that pattern that you carry into the future. Now, I don't want to comment on the reason why me and Vision separated. What we decided to do is to do the conscious uncoupling, where you separate those two concepts, and your future relationship is defined by your intention. Now, we still have the trauma of what made us separate. We still have those this emotional friction, or some kind of forgiveness to go through, because we are human and it's not perfect. I get upset with him, he gets upset with me. But what determines our relationship from the point of our separation is our intention. And our intention is to keep it healthy and productive for both of us, for our children, for our business, because we actually have not just children with my ex-husband, we also have business with my ex-husband. And we do spend quite a lot of time because of that still in each other's vicinity, and we interact in our life. Now, if we didn't make that clear distinction, then obviously our previous experience would have tainted our current experience. But because we had this intention to let go of that past and focus on how we want to create the future, for me, this relationship has become easy. And in a way, that idea that he is not my husband anymore, and that means that Vision doesn't have any obligations to me, because we are not a couple anymore. In a relationship, we sometimes expect things but I'm your girlfriend, and so you should do this and that. But that lack of expectation, for the lack of roles, we don't have a role for each other anymore. That actually made our relationship so much easier. And I realized that maybe partially we suffered in a marriage because of those attributed roles, that expectations. You should be doing this, and you should not be doing this. And as I said, I explained this from my perspective. Now, if you take Catherine Woodward Thomas' book, for example, it's called Conscious Uncoupling, in fact. That she will give you the exact steps and practices how to make it happen, if you still communicate with your ex-partner, how to make it happen if you left, if the partner left, if it was, in any kind of scenarios. Because people separate for so many different reasons, and my scenario probably is not applicable to a lot of people.
No, just to make I'm together with my husband, thanks God, and because of our experience, we were able to write a book, actually, and that's why we are sharing now the steps and principles. But as you said, it also comes together with the same topic that you're teaching, because if you are wounded, you will not be able to go through this hard time also so intelligently. I just wanted to honor you for that, and I think it's a good example for the community and for the people to understand that it can be different. It doesn't have to be always through such a big anger and hatred, and that is going to hurt children. So I really wanted to honor you for that, and it's a very beautiful example. So thank you, Christine. And just let's wrap it all up. That is all important. How would you connect all this self-love to the topic of manifestation? How big the impact of self-love is to the topic of manifestation?
I'm really sorry to say that I'm not a big expert in manifestation. So I really wouldn't know how to answer. I would imagine that your good and healthy relationship with yourself is a very good important contributing factor, or let's say even crucial component of your well-being. And as much as I know about the topic of manifestation, is that your well-being matters, because your well-being is in essence the source of that energy that you require for manifestation. But I personally don't research the topic, and I'm not an expert on that. In Mindvalley, we have people and teachers who dedicated their lives to doing that. So for the weirdos like myself, and I'm a little bit of a nerd, if you want a little bit of scientific background to that, and in psychology there's this interesting idea about the stimuli. I love science about brain and neuropsychology and all that. So the thing is that there's a lot of stimuli in our life, and very often what our brain needs to do is filter out what's important and what's not important. So if you are among those weirdos like myself, the nerds who want to also see a little bit of the science behind that I think then this is the aspect you could go into and try to discover, how is it that this very, very known expression, the beauty is in the eye of the beholder. It's probably like the more psychological aspect to the manifestation part. I believe that it's not just the beauty in the eye of the beholder. It's also the angry and the messy and the ugly. It's all in the eye of the beholder. As I said, your relationship with the world is a reflection of your relationship with yourself. So if you want to influence your world, then the first person to start with is yourself, not as an example to the rest of the world, but as Liene, when we started this interview, I asked, can I please wipe up the lens? If the lens is mucky, then the picture that you're going to get is mucky. So from my point of view, from a geek who likes neuroscience, then your relationship with yourself is like clearing up the lens so that you see the world, not as mucky, but as crisp, brilliant, beautiful, and full of colors.
That's a beautiful thing. And I like that you always have you're authentic, right? Like in the book, you are always saying that authenticity is one of the reasons or one of the ways how you are becoming flawless and how you start to love yourself. So Kristina, thank you so much for your wisdom, for your knowledge, for your experience. And I believe that a lot of people will benefit from it, because this topic is the topic with a big letter on loving ourselves. Even it's not so fancy as you said, manifestation and everything and making money, but I believe it's the basic. It's like when you build a house, this is the basic, and if this basic is all in place, then the rest of the pieces will just come together. So thank you so much, Kristina. Is there anything else where people can find you? Do you want to share anything with the community?
I'm a co-founder of Mindvalley, so you'll sporadically and occasionally see me there. But for now, I mean, Kristina Mänd is my handle everywhere, and it's Kristina with a K. I've a little resigned on social media currently. I post stories more or less regularly, but I don't pay a lot of attention to that. So. I don't know, just just hit me up there, and you can say
come to Mindvalley University if you want to see Kristina, right?
Yeah, I'm not. I'm not with any pragmatic thought in my head in the moment. So yeah, just stay in touch, and we'll see. I currently lead the Mindvalley Book Club, so. That's a fun new project for me.
And if they want to join, what is the way? Can they send you a DM, or what is the way?
I guess DM would be the best way, because we are building up the assets. Yeah.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Kristina. I really, really appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me.